All right, welcome to our last part 6, and this one is pretty short. Hopefully you were able to calculate your revolutionary birthday, and it was something kind of fun to do. I don't know. So let's keep going. So, remember Robespierre? There was this guy, Maximilien Robespierre, and he was then elected as the Committee of Public Safety, and then he sort of became kind of like the head honcho at the time. He started to get a little bit corrupt because remember, with power comes corruption when you have too much of the power and you don't know how to maybe exercise that power. And so Robespierre, he actually doesn't do that good of a job. So with the National Assembly, which is later called the National Convention, it changes its name, on June 4th, 1794, Robespierre was almost unanimously elected president of the National Convention. Awesome, sweet. Yeah, like he represents the people. He's a commoner. He's part of the like kind of upper middle class, so everybody can relate with him. In just a month, 1,400 enemies of the revolution, guys, 1,400 people of the revolution was completely guillotined. The terror escalated, and it kept going and going, and then just when the foreign invasion no longer threatened the Republic, an awkward correlation of the right and the left formed to oppose Robespierre and his followers. So actually, Robespierre, the power was kind of getting to his head in the idea of like guillotine everybody. That was his sort of reign of terror. Remember, I told you that he was sort of the conductor or the narrator of the reign of terror. He was sort of on a killing spree, trying to kill every politician, trying to guillotine every person that spoke against him and against his idea of worshiping the God of reason or worshiping reason or sort of being this sort of like, I don't know, anti-Christian, anti-royalty, anti-monarchy system. He would guillotine you if you were against that. And so they were opposition of Robespierre and his followers. Here you have the poor little Robespierre in the carriage with his followers on the way to go get guillotined. And so the man that actually guillotined others resulted that he gets guillotined later on at the end of the revolution. So I'm going to kind of tell you that I'll just read through this, the end of terror. On July 27th, 1794, which, if you were still following the revolutionary calendar, it would be 9 Thermidor of the revolutionary calendar, Robespierre and his allies were placed under arrest by the National Assembly. Robespierre was taken to Luxembourg prison in Paris, but the warden refused to jail him. Then he fled to the Hotel de Vichy, or Ville, okay, or Ville, however you would pronounce it. So Robespierre runs off and flees to this hotel, where he received word that the National Convention had declared him an outlaw. Because of this is kind of ridiculous. He shot himself in the head, but only succeeded in wounding his jaw. So he couldn't even, shoot himself in the head, I guess correctly. So he wounded his jaw, broke his jaw completely. Shortly thereafter, troops of the National Convention attacked the hotel and seized Robespierre and his allies. Robespierre could not even speak in order of his defense because of his jaw being completely shattered. The next evening, July 28th, Robespierre and 21 others were guillotined without a trial in the palace or in the place like the Plaza de la Révolution. I don't know how you would say it in a French accent, but Revolution. During the next few days, another 82 of Robespierre's followers were executed, guillotined, and then that ended the reign of terror. Okay? In conclusion, in the aftermath, there was a coup. And a coup is when military leaders or military people come and kind of sweep in and take control of everything. The Committee of Public Safety lost all its authority. The prisons were emptied, and the French Revolution became decidedly less radical. The Directory, which is like the group of people that was in charge, that followed, saw a return to bourgeoisie values and corruption and military failure. In 1799, the Directory was overthrown in a military coup, meaning the military came and took control of everything, and the military was led by a guy named Napoleon Bonaparte, who wielded wielded dictatorial powers in France as first consul, and after 1804, he was then crowned as French emperor. So we started with a king, a very selfish, immature, sweet 16, kind of whatever king, and then we ended with a ruthless emperor out of all of that. Okay, so with that said, I want to show you guys some famous pieces of art that take place that have to do with the revolution. So if you ever seen this album cover of what is it, Coldplay, Viva la Vida, they use this picture that represents the revolution as their album cover. It's by Eugene Delacroix, which is called Liberty Leading the People. So this is a very, very famous picture. You saw it at the very beginning of part 1's lecture. Then this is a very one of the most popular pictures, or one of the most popular paintings of the revolution. Is called The Death of Marat. The Death of Marat, Jacques-Louis David, he was actually the personal painter of Napoleon Bonaparte. And Marat, you can see here the name, it shows who Marat is, and here you could see that he's writing his newspaper at the time, and then the stabbing of him in the bathtub. And there you see the knife. And it's very dramatic, and there's like a very kind of elongated sort of style that makes it a very attractive painting to look at. This is another picture that represents the death of Marat, also by Jacques-Louis David. And it's supposed to symbolize kind of like the same idea. I'm so sorry. So this is the death of Marat right here. And this is supposed to basically depict or show off the resemblance of this picture right here of Jesus being taken down from the cross. And so what they were showing is like, wow, a man that died for something, or a martyr. And so like they kind of compared and contrasted Marat to Jesus in this picture. That's why I put that in there. I kind of forgot as I was looking at it. Then finally, this picture, another one by Jacques-Louis David, or Louis. This is Napoleon Bonaparte, very romanticized, very unrealistic, but very noble to show Napoleon Bonaparte as a noble military leader. And if you ever want to see a picture of Napoleon Bonaparte by Jacques-Louis David, you can go to Washington, D.C. And then I actually took this picture, a very less attractive portrait of Napoleon Bonaparte, if you ask me, but very big kind of portrait that shows what Napoleon looked like, okay? So, with that said, we finished the revolution. I hope you guys like the recorded lessons. If you have any questions, email me or email your teacher, or talk to me or whatever. And it's one of my favorite subjects to teach about or to talk about in class. It's a little bit hard to do it over virtual kind of through video. So let me know if you want to talk about it in person. All right. Good job, guys. That ends part 6.